This video might be a little difficult for some of us because I'm gonna tell you why free content actually kinda sucks. Now hold up, it's not all bad. Free content definitely has a time and a place. It's got a great use, but the problem is a lot of Twitch streamers are investing way too much time and energy into free. And it makes sense. A lot of people are telling you that you need to do everything for free, but this can be a little bit problematic. Not everyone is in a financial position to be able to accommodate free work. But you love streaming and you love the idea of being a full-time streamer someday. And so what you're doing is you're putting a ton of time and energy and work in up front with the hope that someday that work that you put in is going to be worth other people paying you for it so you can potentially go full-time. But we can't just hope. Our stream is our business, and if we really consider it our business, that means that we have to analyze the relationship that we have with free content and with the way that we can extract value from other people in the form of paid content. Because whether you want to be a full-time streamer or not, if you want to treat your stream seriously and treat it like the business that it is, part of that requires you not just sitting around hoping that things work out, but actually putting thought and intention into the business model around your content. Oof, we get to talk about free versus paid, and I'm about to throw down. What's up everyone, it's Ashni. I've been a full-time stream coach for 2.5 years, which means that people have been paying me to help them with their streams for over 2 years now. And so I have a very intimate relationship with free versus paid content. But what I want this video to do for you is to make you look at your business model with an analytical eye. And for some of you, that's gonna mean making your very first business model. Of course, as usual, if you have any questions about this video or any other video, you can come and hang out with us in Discord at discord.gg/ashnichrist. It's always a little difficult for me to make videos about the business side of being a streamer because as much as I believe these videos need to be made, I also know that everyone has their own emotional relationship with money. For some people, it's healthy, and for some people, it's very unhealthy. The reason that your relationship with money is so important is because the pressure of not having enough of it is something that can become very obvious during your stream. If you are constantly thinking about how little you're making in subs and bits and tips, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to put on your absolute best show for your viewers, which is really what they deserve. So in order for you to really be the best streamer that you can be, we need to find a way to take this financial pressure off of you. In fact, a big part of what I hope this channel does for you is that it helps you rid yourself of that financial pressure because we help you figure out how to build a strong business model around your content in a way that is ethical. Part of the way that you do this is with free content. Free content is literally any content that you make that you are not directly paid for upon creating it. Free content for the Twitch community is comfortable. It makes sense. There's a reason that most companies that work for the Twitch community or for streamers are using freemium models. They don't make you pay for anything. We'll get into freemium models here in a second, but the reason that free content is so important for you is because it grows your likability, your trustworthiness, and the awareness that the community has of you. Streaming for hours and hours and hours is a great way to show your audience that you care about them. Making YouTube videos is an awesome free way to show off your expertise or to grow more awareness of what you do. But there's another reason that people use free, and that is for reciprocity. It's very natural for people to want to reciprocate on the goodwill that they receive from someone else. And so whenever you're doing a lot of free things for people, they feel more indebted to you, which means over time, they're more likely to want to subscribe or tip or cheer on your channel because you've already given them so much. However, relying on the goodwill of other people to pay you is a very dangerous position to put your business in. then. You're not really even a business at that point. You're almost a charity where you're sitting and you're collecting donations. And this is where freemium models come in. So a freemium business model is something like, think Streamlabs or Evernote or Trello or Canva. You can use most of the features, or maybe not even most, but you can use some features for free, and then other features are locked behind paying for the more scaled up features. This is why it's called freemium. So it's supposed to be free plus premium. So there are a lot of different ways that we can show you business models, but today we're just going to use a really basic funnel analogy for this. Let's start with a traditional business model funnel. So it's going to look something like this, where it's divided into 3 different sections. The top section of a traditional business is awareness. This is where the company is trying to get more awareness out into the world. So they'll use things that you can't even, oh my gosh, you can't even tell that that spells awareness, and I'm so sorry. I'll have to find a different way to do these videos maybe. Let me know what y'all want to see next. So the business is looking to generate more awareness. This is usually done through things like content and paid advertising. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to reach out into a group of people and bring people into their space. And that's the first step of their funnel. Once you're here, then they try to bring you through the rest of it. So the second part here is where the business tries to engage you. This is when you're either looking through all their blog posts and learning about their product, or you're seeing a bunch of ads that brings you back to their website. And so their goal here is to kind of show off their expertise and get you to be emotionally bought in to whatever their product is. So this is where the sales kind of starts to happen. You get a little bit more aware of their product, you get more knowledge about it, etc. And then the third step here is whenever you have actually bought in and you become a paying customer. And at this point, you've gone all the way through their funnel. There's also like other steps out here, blah, 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 that they're going to want to do to reduce churn and re-engage their customers and keep things consistent. But for the most part, this is the very basic way of getting someone from not knowing anything about you to being bought into your actual business. But freemium models are completely different. What a freemium model does is it basically cuts off this entire part of the funnel. So instead of the company now having to make all of this content, pay for all of these ads, instead what they're doing is they are bringing you right into the engagement, the middle part of the funnel, by letting you have access to their product immediately without having to pay for it. The reason for this, the main goal of this, is because freemium models, that's freemium, freemium models decrease something called customer acquisition costs. Okay, and this is the amount of money that it costs to get a customer to sign up for your product. So this is why ads, marketing, all of these massive parts of companies are so important to them, is because what they're doing is they're advertising, they're growing that awareness. But a freemium model takes the responsibility of that product's awareness off of marketers, advertisers, and creating all of this content for it, and instead puts it onto the responsibility of the customers, because businesses started realizing that word of mouth is so much more powerful than ads. Okay, and so what they're doing here is they're realizing people are getting a lot smarter. People don't really like all of the marketing strategies that we're using, and what's happening is there's this shift going on with businesses and their business models right now because of how much marketing we've seen over the past 2 decades on the internet. And so they call them Web 2.0 companies. A lot of these Web 2.0 companies like Evernote and Trello and Todoist, all of these people are using freemium models to cut off all of this expensive customer acquisition process that they have to do and instead get you immediately engaged into the actual product, because they realized also that a free customer is actually worth 15 to 25% more than a paid customer because of the amount of word of mouth that a free customer will generate in comparison. It's crazy. Now you might be like, Ashni, why the heck are we going into this like business freemium model explanation? Who freaking cares? What does this have to do with me? This has everything to do with you, because streamers are essentially freemium models. You are this business model. This is you, because what you're trying to do is you're getting people immediately invested into your product through your stream. And through that engagement, you're not even typically giving them a way to buy in to a product or a service that you're creating. You're kind of just letting them hang out here, and you're hoping that they're gonna see value enough in you and in what you do during your stream to want to sub, cheer, or tip you. But there's a problem with freemium models, okay? And this is something that a lot of the people who say like just create a ton of free content, just worry about subs, bits, and tips, this is what they're not really telling you. And it's not really their fault because they don't really know, most of them. The problem with freemium models is that the conversion rate is abysmal. They typically only convert around 2 to 5% of their free customers into paying customers, which means that in order for a freemium model to work, you need massive scale. Okay, so if you're a streamer and you want to go full time, your ability to go full time is locked behind tons of people subscribing, bits, cheers, tips, and hopefully you getting big enough so that sponsors and affiliates start to take serious interest in you. So that means that a lot of streamers are relying on this massive scale that needs to happen in order for them to make enough money to be able to pay their bills with streaming, and you just can't completely guarantee that that scale is going to happen. And for some of you, you need money now. You have bills now that you need to pay. You don't have time to be waiting for this freemium model to work out for you. So there are a couple of other things about freemium models that we need to talk about too. One is that you really need users to stick around in a freemium model. So that means that the value that you give people for free actually has to increase over time, okay? Because if you just create the free thing once and then they get it from you, but it doesn't grow and it doesn't evolve and it doesn't change and it doesn't get better and better, then they're likely going to go the other direction and go off to the person who is changing, right? Or the inherent thing that you're offering here has to be so good that people realize throughout their life it's something that they have to use over and over and over again, which oftentimes it is, because whenever we're streaming, what we're doing is we're building relationships, and relationships are something that take maintenance. They take time and energy from us, and so we have to stop in over and over and over again to the streamers that we're watching to maintain those relationships. So if we don't use a freemium business model, what other business model can we actually use? So this is the paid product business model. This is actually the model that I use. Okay, once again, we're gonna do our, let me redo that actually. We're gonna do our funnel. It's gonna be divided into 3 separate sections. The first is still awareness. So this very first way that you wanna get people involved is that you want to make them aware of you. So this is going to be done through content. This is YouTube videos, this is your streams, this is podcast episodes, and then you have to think about the customer experience or your viewer experience. After someone's aware of you and they are consuming all of your content, what's the next step in that relationship? How are you, or what is it that they're actually wanting from you after they've consumed a lot of your content? Well, what they probably want to do is they want to join your community. And so this is why you have things like a Discord, you have community nights, you have an email list, you have any other community space for the people who are already bought into your content. That's the reason that this exists, because what you're doing here is the same thing that you're doing in this other business model, which is the freemium business model, and you're engaging them. Okay, so you want them to be able to see and get a better sense of the culture of your space and the other people that are attracted to you as well. But then the next question becomes, okay, if someone's hanging out in my community a lot, what's the deeper relationship with them? What's the next offer after someone is already super invested in the content, really invested in the community, and they feel like there's a really good fit? And this is where the paid content comes in. Okay, for some of you, this is like subs, bits, tips, but there's another section of paid content that isn't really being talked about a lot, and that is products and services. So the difference between this paid model and this free model is that in this free model, people are typically in this engagement section for a long amount of time before they actually end up buying, which means before we end up making any money. And in a paid model, it's typically more upfront that you're able to capture the value from them. The good part about paid business models like this is that people are actually way more likely to get results from the things that you're offering them because they put money into it. There's a higher perceived value whenever you charge for something versus when you don't. If people know that they have to spend their money in order to get a thing, suddenly that thing becomes a lot more valuable. And so that's why it's important that from time to time you think about, how much am I actually making for free here versus how much am I charging people for? Another thing that's a massive benefit of paid business models like this is that the product engagement rate ends up being a lot higher in paid models versus freemium models. Oftentimes, because freemium models, they get a lot of the features and they get a lot of what you have to offer for free already. And so in order to keep someone buyed in, you have to make sure that the thing that you're offering is something that's so tied to their life that they need to stick around for it. But in paid models, this is a lot easier to do because people are already spending their money on it, which means that they are more likely to keep putting effort and energy in because they've already paid for the thing that you're trying to give them. So that means that there's a longer customer lifetime, which means there's generally more revenue over time. But paid business models aren't perfect either. There can be a lot of pressure up front in a paid business model. So oftentimes people feel like you're trying to sell them something, which in the Twitch community can come across as really weird. If you're immediately jumping from someone who's like new in your stream and you're trying to convince them to subscribe to your channel, that's probably gonna make them feel like you care about the money more so than them as a person, which just isn't gonna work in a platform that is more concerned about community versus it's just an actual business. All right, so this is the freemium model and this is the paid model, but what the heck does this mean for you? How do we execute on this information? See, the problem that most streamers have is that they don't even have a funnel. They more have just two pieces sitting on top of each other, and oftentimes the bottom one is getting pretty squished. So this top one is awareness. This is all of your content. You're putting tons of time and energy into your free content, and then you're also being told to do a ton of stuff for free already. And so the awareness that you're focusing on growing for yourself is absolutely massive. And the amount of time that it takes to put into all of the content and all the other free things that you're doing is taking away from your ability to build out this second little section of your business model, which is for community. And it's also almost non-existent that you focus on the paid side of what you're doing. So what we need to do here is kind of like squish in the top of this and take a little bit of time and attention away from all of the free work that we're doing, and instead nurture the relationships that we already have and spend time on developing more paid experiences for people. Once we do that, this wonky looking business model over here ends up turning into something that looks a little bit more balanced like this. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of these 3 different steps. Step 1 is awareness. How are you growing people's awareness of you? How are you being found? What is it that you're putting out into the world that's helping you get discovered? Now, it's really important that whenever you create this content to grow your awareness, that you also realize that you have to do it for a specific group of people. So I have a video about how to find your audience. If you haven't watched that one already, that's really important. But make sure that, of course, you're creating the content that's going to get you in front of people. This is why being consistent is really important, and sticking with it and learning how to get even just 1% better with every stream or every YouTube video, because what you're doing is you're showing your expertise, you're showing what you have to offer people, you're improving on that offer as you create more and more and more. And then step 2 is I want you to analyze, what are you currently doing to engage people? How are you letting them dive deeper with you? Do you have a Discord community? Do they have an email list they can go to? Do they have maybe a sub-only what would it be, like a sub-only Twitter account or something that they're allowed to follow? And then what I want you to do is I want you to think about what your paid offer is, okay? And this goes beyond subs, bits, and tips, because that stuff is great, but it's actually not directly in your control. And it's not necessarily anything that technically benefits the person who's paying for what they're receiving. They usually are just subscribing or cheering or tipping because they receive reciprocity already from you in step 1. So how are you creating some kind of paid offer for them that's actually going to help them receive some kind of transformation from you that they're signing up to hang out in your stream for, okay? Because viewers are coming to you over and over again, not because they just have a relationship with you, but because you actively do something for them. You give them value in some way. And so the value that you're giving, what you want to do is figure out, what are people actually coming to me for? And then how do I create some kind of paid thing out of this? So this is pretty introductory, but a really good exercise for you is go through each 3 of these steps. Think about everything that you do during your stream or in your journey as a content creator, and place all of those things into one of these 3 steps. What most of you are going to find whenever you do this is that your efforts to grow your awareness are very active. You're making YouTube videos, you're making streams, you're showing up all the time, you're tweeting, you're all over the place whenever it comes to content. And whenever it comes to engagement, like, you're still pretty in there too. You're in your Discord channel, you're in other people's Discord channels, you're in those community spaces to grow those relationships. But whenever it comes to the paid side of your business model, what a lot of you are doing is you are throwing away the activity level that you have and the power level that you have in steps 1 and step 2, and you're leaving it up to the goodwill of the people who are watching you. Because some people are going to have reciprocity. They're going to pay you anyways. They're going to sub, bit, cheer, whatever, and you're going to get a little bit of money from that. However, once again, if you're relying on the goodwill of other people, that's a really scary place to put your business in, and freemium models convert at 2 to 5%. Stream models are a little bit stronger than that, but at the same time, you shouldn't have to wait for this massive level of scale in order to have a Twitch payout that's actually going to be able to pay the amount of money that you put in to make your stream stuff work anyways. So what we need to do is we need to find more active ways to build out this paid section of our business model. That might actually mean that you need to take some things from your awareness step and from your engagement step and put them into the paid section of your business model. For some of you, you already had have things that you can monetize. You're just too scared to do it because everyone is telling you that all of your stuff has to be free. And so you're waiting on this massive level of scale in order to see the financial success that you want to see when you just don't have that time to wait. And so you have to be brave enough to decide, okay, I am going to allow myself and trust my audience that I am going to be able to make these things paid and they will feel okay with that. So there are some things that you need to do in order to make this work though, because the transition from free if you've been doing stuff for free forever, let me tell you, this is going to be really difficult. This is a really big growth moment for a lot of you. The transition from free to paid and learning how to make money online, because it's going to force you to confront a lot of the weird feelings that you have about money and a lot of the weird feelings that your audience has about money too. So if you've done things for free forever and now you're at the position where you're like, okay, you know what? Yes, I want to start building out my business model. This all sounds really good to me. I believe that I have some really great things that I could offer for people. Now what you're gonna have to do is deal with some people who are gonna feel like this shift is super weird. They're not gonna like it. It's not really a comfortable thing to go through a lot of times. And so that's why the way that you communicate this shift is really important. The reason that it's important to know about this is because your audience is going to have certain expectations of you. That means that if you build an audience off of the back of free stuff and putting tons of free out and really positioning yourself as someone who values free stuff and wants to give tons of things away for free, that's the expectation that they're going to have of you. And so when you start charging for stuff, a lot of them are going to feel slighted by that, and they're going to feel a little upset because you haven't trained your audience to know that the paid stuff was coming. If you get into a situation where people are either upset at you because you are offering paid things, or you are trying to transition a current audience over to accepting that you're now doing paid stuff, like maybe sub-only streams, then what I recommend you do is that you just have an honest conversation with them. Unfortunately, you are not going to retain everybody because, once again, remember, everyone has their own relationship with money, which means they're going to have their own opinions about you charging for things. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't charge, and that doesn't mean that there aren't people who are actually wanting to give you value financially. Your viewers need to be educated. You have to tell them what they stand to gain from them actually paying for whatever it is that you have to offer. You have to tell them how their life is going to improve by signing up for this thing that you're making. And if you're in a situation where you're hearing a lot of people tell you, make everything for free, and you don't have a huge audience yet, keep in mind what you learned in this video. Free stuff is awesome to grow more awareness of you and to help people get to know who you are and to get your name out there. If you're looking for exposure, baby, do a bunch of free stuff for people. But just like every artist says, exposure does not pay the bills, and you can't be expected to work for free forever. And the earlier you tell your audience that you are going to be creating some kind of paid something, or that you care about your business model, the more they're gonna be okay whenever that change happens. I cannot talk today. Filming this video has been a freaking nightmare, let me tell you. So remember, free stuff is awesome. It's great. It's amazing to spend a ton of time making tons of free content and tons of free other things that you're doing for people. But if you don't have a way to capture the value that's coming in as a result of that free content, then what you're doing is you're just growing vanity numbers, and you're not actually moving yourself and your business in the direction of freedom. And this is why a 15 viewer streamer can actually be way more financially successful than a 500 viewer streamer. It's all about the business model surrounding your content. And so it's really important that as a business, you focus on what that business model is and what that looks like for you. Because most of you are already making tons of free stuff, but you're undervaluing how much stuff you're actually putting out there for free. And you're not taking the steps to create paid offers for the people that want to go deeper with you. And really, you should be. It's time to focus on that. You don't need permission from anyone to start a business or start monetizing your content in this way. What you need to do is just do it, because as with anything that you've done in your journey as a streamer, you've gotten better over time, but you can't get better if you don't just get started. And once you are brave enough to just get started, you're gonna start improving faster, which is ultimately going to lead to you realizing how freaking easy it is to make money online without needing hundreds or thousands of people watching you, without needing all of the scale that you think your success is locked behind, because as you saw in this video, it is not locked behind that. So far, I've only done this in 2 different ways. I've got Stream Coach Academy, which is my 6-week boot camp for streamers. There's a link down below if you want to get on the wait list for that. And I've got my ebook, Build Your Dream Stream, which is all about my journey going from 20 average viewers for 4 years to 100 viewers plus up to 250 average viewers. I also made a video about the process that I use to make my ebook. If you haven't watched that one yet, definitely go and check it out if you want to learn a little bit more about how to make paid content for people. I'll see you over there. Bye.